2 months ago, I experienced something that I cannot sum up as anything other than divine intervention. I was at my local anime shop, as I tend to be bi-weekly, and I was browsing the used manga section hoping to find some full moon volumes for a video. Instead, I found something completely different. Wait, what? What is this series? Do I know this series? Why do I feel like I know this series? I was immediately drawn to the name Mamotte Lollipop and the girl with ginormous wire ribbons on the front cover. Like, I stopped everything and did a Google search on my phone to confirm. 12-year-old Nina is an ordinary girl until she accidentally swallows a crystal pearl sought after by droves of examining sorcerers from another world. Now the two boys who fell from the sky vow to protect her from harm's way until the exam is over. Oh my god. I know this. I had this exact manga in volume when I was a kid. I could not believe I ran into it again like this. I could have screamed in the middle of the store at this realization. But like, it's weird. Why did I not remember Mamotte Lollipop until this very moment? I mean, so many other series I discovered in 2007 stayed in my mind, but not this. Not to mention its setup was pretty much a dream scenario. Two boys clamoring over you, protecting you, swearing they'll have your back at any obstacle life throws at you. Like, this should have been me. Well, I took this rediscovery as a sign. It came back into my life and I will complete this series that I never completed or watched as a kid. But when I read the first chapter and then watched the first episode, I think I quickly realized why the existence of this series was more or less a fever dream for me.
Nina! Nina! Are you okay, Nina? Does anything hurt?
Come back all you want, but you'll never get Nina, jerks.
Whenever I see you hanging out with that guy, it makes me feel so jealous.
Zero.
Nina,
Zero.
Nina, our bodies aren't the only things that are close. It's much more than that.
We share a much stronger connection because our hearts are bound in friendship.
Oh, it's cringe. Like, it's actually fanfic I wrote in grade 6 levels of cringe, but I didn't think of it like that at the time. In fact, I'm 100% certain I ate this up. Zero's a brash and brazen guy who says whatever's on his mind but has a heart of gold. Ichi's a sweet and sensitive guy with a more mature disposition and can convey his feelings more openly. Add a couple more guys in there and they would have been the perfect boy band. Nina, our main character, is just a girl. No, like, she's actually just a girl. While backstories and histories trickle in for our other magic exam participants throughout the series, Nina doesn't exactly get the same treatment. She's kind to those around her, she argues with Zero a lot, she likes cake, and that's it. The more I read, the more I realized it and was kind of puzzled by it. Why does Nina get the least background in her own story? But soon I came to a weird conclusion that I was able to accept. It's kind of the point. Nina's by no means a flat character, she's very expressive and funny, but her lack of story kind of makes her a blank canvas. A canvas that any tween reader could see themselves in and project onto, making themselves the main character of the story too. I mean, I do distinctly remember wanting her to end up with Zero at the end when I was younger, because I wanted to end up with Zero at the end when I was younger. He was like a boyish shonen protag that wound up in a shoujo. Very much so my type at the time. While some more defining character traits of Nina's, like the early bickering, could have been seen as annoying, it made sense for her character. She never asked to have her life in grave danger every day, having to run away from magical monsters and beasts because she accidentally swallowed what looked like a piece of candy on her plate. And I ended up really liking her as the story progressed and she found her role among the team. Because as much as she's been deciding which boy she wants to protect her, she realizes that she wants to protect them too. The time they've spent together, none of it has been in vain, and their closeness eventually makes her realize that she doesn't want to live without them. And for a normal girl with no magic powers of her own, this love and hope for those around her is what becomes her superpower. And it's what saves them in the toughest of situations when no other wizard can. But that's not important. Which boy does she like? Zero or Ichi? Zero or Ichi? Zero or Ichi. This struggle is by far the most core focus of the first series. It sounds like a love triangle, but it doesn't really start off as one as much as it is just Zero and Ichi saying the corniest one-liners. We won't let anyone else have you. The seats next to her are reserved for us. Oh my god, I can't take it. It's so much that at some point they're genuinely not beating the thruple allegations. Because for this first arc, which I like to call the Crystal Pearl arc, Zero and Ichi aren't really returning any feelings to Nina. Well, none that they're aware of yet. Their first objective is to have possession of the Crystal Pearl. Nina ends up swallowing it, so naturally they proclaim possession of Nina. It sounds bad because, well, it is. Like, as much as I wanted to buy into their protective words and kind actions towards Nina, the fact that they only started doing this to make sure that they passed the exam just silently ate at me. I wasn't fully convinced, and the very focus of the Crystal Pearl arc left me with a pretty bad impression. I watched the 13-episode anime in its completion first before reading the manga, and the experience was just so painful. Lord. It is almost completely, surprisingly faithful to the manga, aside from the fairy Zura being present in the anime when he really doesn't show up until the sequel, and there being a big final battle against the Black Pearl. Yeah, that wasn't in the manga. I think they just dressed this up for flashy anime purposes. But this first arc was definitely a sore spot for me. It wasn't all bad though. The series shines the most when it dove into the backstories of its characters. And the best one early on for me wasn't even about our three leads. Mamotte Lollipop is truly an ensemble cast. The other examinees are ever present in Nina's life. Some because they're also vying for the Crystal Pearl, others for their own alternate romantic intentions. But San and Forte are a curious case. Forte can't seem to stand San and her energy, her wild magic, the way she always puts him into dresses, and yet he stays by her side. They turn out to be cousins who once lived very separated lives. San was a cheerful, kind of weird kid with strange magic powers, and she was kept at a distance because of this, her family believing she was cursed. Their grandfather wouldn't even let her near her own mother because he believed San was making her sickness worse. But Forte meets her for the first time, and instead of fearing her, he sees a sadness in her cheerful eyes. He sees something in her that reflects in himself and decides to befriend her instead. And when San's mother dies, Forte is the only one who approaches her, understands her feelings, and tells her that it's okay to cry, that you don't have to smile all the time, even when it hurts. Learning this, it makes sense why San is always on 100 when playing with Forte. Their family failed this little girl, and Forte is the only one who's ever given her permission to feel. Wait, I enjoyed that. That was a pretty good backstory. Mamotte Lollipop has tons of shenanigans and antics. One minute they've won a trip to a bathhouse, the next minute they're going to the beach, the next they're doing a haunted house test of courage event. Ooh, now Nina and Zero have switched bodies. Like, this show is very much so built to be one big beach episode. But the manga creator, Michio Kikuta, really did a good job when it came to these characters' histories. Take Zero and Ichi for example. Ichi started off as a hoodlum of all things, but changed his ways when he found a brotherhood in teaming up with Zero and combining his own defensive magic with Zero's destruction magic. Also a literal brotherhood in the sense that they're now brother-in-laws. Zero's brother married Ichi's stepsister. Zero became the one other person that Ichi wanted to protect and rely on. And this saves him from the incestuous crush that he has on his sister. Oh, you're cringing? Imagine how I felt sitting here and getting a random step-sibling trope jump scare. Ugh. It's giving Life with Derek. But at least it was written out of him. I'm sure nothing else will damage Ichi's character for any of us. Whew. As fun as it is, I kind of got to my wit's end when I finished the Crystal Pearl arc. With cheesy lines, a surface level main character, and a lack of world building, seriously, why does the magic world look like New York City in the 80s? I wasn't expecting much more out of the series. But I'd already dedicated myself to this, so I put my big girl pants on and I moved on to volume 5 of the manga, and I was shocked by what I read. It's getting good. Better plot, believable conflicts, natural romantic progression. What the heck is going on here? With the Crystal Pearl debacle settled, the second half of the first series moves on to another core plot, the Kingdom arc, and I think it literally changes everything for the better. There's no more magical exam, no more chasing after the Crystal Pearl, with no more worrying about the pearl in Nina's body. Her relationships with Zero and Ichi are able to naturally progress. Though the two of them never prioritized the pearl over their friendship with Nina, there's even less of a worry of ulterior motives to their kindness and protection of her with the pearl out of the picture. It's just her and them, and it's so much better. She cuts class with Ichi for a day and experiences his sweet romantic gestures at the amusement park. She participates in a school play and accidentally kisses Zero, and it completely changes her brain chemistry. Like, now the love triangle conflict is believable. And all of this action between them means that Zero and Ichi start to develop some kind of jealousy towards each other. Jealousy that wasn't there before because they've naturally developed their own feelings for Nina after spending so much time with her. It's such a realistic progression. With the romance developing within the main crew, it finally feels like the rest of the story is moving. And gosh, is the larger conflict much more interesting than the Crystal Pearl stuff. You see, a group of displaced sorcerers who call themselves Kingdom are trying to restore the ruins of their home and release their princess from the framed painting she's been locked up in. They're told they need a great magic power to do this, and Nina and the Crystal Pearl's cute little dragon reincarnation, Pearl, are the perfect candidates for such a task. Yes, the Nina protection plan lives on, but there is truly no other intention this time than to just keep Nina safe. Heck, even the other examinees who failed the magic exam stick around and wind up using their powers to protect Nina as well. She's made a profound impact on all of them, so it comes as no surprise when Ichi confesses his love to Nina when they're in a tight spot. I mean, at this point, I was like, girl, Ichi is the prime option here. Say less. Yes, I said I was a Zero girl in my preteen years, but clearly Ichi was the more emotionally mature one here. I mean, this is bigger than Edward versus Jacob, ladies. You can only pick one side here, Zero or Ichi, the two genders. I specifically saw a YouTube comment on an episode because the Mamotte Lollipop episodes are all just literally up for free on YouTube. That was like, Nina and Zero are the best because they argue a lot. They belong together. I mean, this comment was made like 12 years ago, probably by someone who was also a tween at the time, but my goodness. My, how we are led astray as children. Well, spoiler alert, none of this really mattered because Ichi is not the one Nina wants to show up for her when she's in trouble. Zero isn't great at expressing his feelings, but he's always been the most vocal about protecting her no matter what. He's clumsy in his words and Nina gets mad at him for it, but it's because she cares so much about what he thinks of her. And most of all, regardless of where their relationship is, whether they fought that day or not, Zero is always there when she needs him. I mean, so is Ichi, but who's paying attention? Zero is the one she wants, Nina is the one Zero wants, and my 11-year-old heart soars high. The ending of the first series is really quite good. With an epic team up and a threatening big bad that is Joker, it feels like the magic use in the story and the deeper meaning behind Nina's own power to uplift others comes to a pretty satisfying conclusion. This mixed with Nina and Zero finally getting together, I was pretty much on a high. And then I read the bonus story. With two male leads, there's inevitably going to be one that gets the shorter end of the stick, and unfortunately, that means our king of emotional maturity, Ichi, was not the winner here. Well, okay, that's fine. Who does he end up with? The bonus story takes place 10 years in the future and features a now 15-year-old Roka. Roka is contestant number 006 in the magical exam that took place in the original series, and she's mostly known as the 5-year-old toddler who uses her magic to transform into an older version of herself to try and seduce Ichi. Ichi never really takes her seriously. He's 15 himself and sees her as a little kid. After all, she is one. But with his confession of love to Nina effectively rejected, he tells this little Roka, who is asking to marry him for the 100th time, that he'll think about it in 10 years. Huh? Ichi? In 10 years? You mean when you're 25 and she's 15? I'm unsettled, but surely he's not serious. These were my famous last words. Before I read the bonus story in which the grown man Ichi proposes to the high schooler Roka. Bro. And it's not some mistake. Ichi tells her that they'll be long distance while he's away studying to be a magical world cop, and she must graduate high school for him. Oh, how much more must I endure? Ichi was such a good, charming character. How do you cure him of ass just to write him into dating a high schooler? He's ruined! It's over! The bonus story wasn't all bad. I feel like I say this a lot. The light at the end of the tunnel was seeing Zero also proposing to Nina in his own stubborn way. But this was such a poor note to end on after such a good finale, I almost want to pretend this bonus story doesn't exist. Like it's an alternate ending. You made the right choice with Zero, Nina. Ichi's got too much going on. Finishing the first series, I almost didn't know what to do. I loved how the second half, the Kingdom arc, ended up, but that leaves me with a 50-50 chance of the next installment being good. And after that bonus story, I just prayed that Modote Mamotte Lollipop didn't take place 10 years in the future. 1 year after the conclusion of Mamotte, Modote Mamotte Lollipop, the sequel series began its run in Nakayoshi magazine in 2006. And although I can't confirm this, I feel like the continuation may have to do with Mamotte getting picked up for its anime series that began airing around this same time. Having a manga and an anime releasing at the same time probably helped to fuel the momentum of each. I mean, after all, Mamotte could have ended where it did and completed its legacy there, but thank God it didn't, because Modote is like miles, eons better than its predecessor. The habit a lot of tween-geared romances tend to fall into, at least when I was growing up, is a buildup of romance, a thrilling get-together in the finale, and then it's over. The actual course of the relationship never plays out in the series, so it's mostly left for fans to theorize over and create fictional works of their own. The Chad Modote, however, takes place a year and a half later, giving us actual content surrounding the early ups and downs of Nina and Zero's relationship. And it's so stinking cute! Things didn't immediately take off for them after their big kiss in the Mamotte finale. In fact, Zero and Ichi had to return to the magic world quite promptly, so they're very much so an awkward, nervous, long-distance couple. The chance for Nina to see Zero and Ichi again, however, comes quite surprisingly in the form of, get this, another pearl falling from the sky and straight into her mouth. No, I am not shitting you. The beginning of Modote is almost bar for bar the exact beginning of Mamotte. With a new crystal drop and apparent advanced magic exam the previous examinees have returned to take. Now you may be thinking, Imani. And I don't blame you. I had the exact same reaction after talking so much shit about the Crystal Pearl arc, an arc that I genuinely believe bogged down the first half of the series. Here we are again with what is essentially the Crystal Pearl arc, the remix. I could have died. But the execution here is not only different, it's improved. The crystal drop remains in Nina's system, but has broken up into segments. Those which are released from Nina's body every time she experiences heart-pounding excitement. Whichever team has the most crystal fragments by the end is the proclaimed winner of the advanced exam. And take a guess at what kind of heart-thumping excitement is the only kind that releases these crystal fragments from her body. Yeah, Zero and Nina shippers, we won. With the early awkward but passionate growth of Zero and Nina's relationship, and the crystal fragments releasing from Nina every time they so much as hold hands, the story is progressing in both the love and the magical plot department. It's a genius win-win. My favorite moment within this is definitely when Nina and Zero go on a little date together and wind up at a shrine. The vibes are great. Nina makes a wish that she wants to be with Zero forever. Zero bashfully does the same. They're about to kiss for only their second time ever. Things are going great. until, of course, a crystal drop fragment releases from Nina's body because of all the excitement. Now, this itself could be a mood ruiner, but what's worse is the fact that Zero runs full speed to capture the fragment, completely leaving Nina, the mood, and their almost kiss behind. He's not the brightest one here, but I absolutely loved how Nina caught up to him after this and questioned which is more important to him. Zero is not fantastic with his words, but because he doesn't vocalize his feelings, Nina ends up questioning what she even means to him. Seeing Nina have this fire within her, recognizing her own self-worth and importance outside of the crystal drop's existence, was like my favorite Nina moment by far. She went from kind of a blank slate of a character to this, and I only wish that this Nina was also animated. Now, she does forgive him quite easily, but it's still so satisfying to watch them overcoming hurdles throughout Mamotte. A huge one being the ban placed on their romance. If the advanced magic exam's focus moves towards making sure Nina experiences some kind of heart-pounding excitement, doesn't that put the examinees who aren't Zero and Ichi at a disadvantage? The Magic Council seems to think so, and thus any lovey-dovey action between Nina and Zero is banned and means the confiscation of Zero and Ichi's collected crystal fragments. Such a task proves to be nearly impossible for the two because they are obsessed with each other. I mean, they'd have the tamest of conversations and moments and poof, they lost another fragment. Sure, this was frustrating at first. Yet another test the universe is giving Zero on it's either your girlfriend or the magic exam. But Nina comes to the conclusion that Zero's dream is most important to her, and she'll do what she must to make sure he succeeds in the future. It's a really mature stance to take. I mean, they still continue to break the rules because they love each other too much, but I was really impressed by Nina here. Can you tell I'm pro Nina in this series? She was just written with so much more initiative, and the story itself complemented the characters more. There were still ridiculous silly moments like Nina and Roka bumping heads and turning into a two-headed dinosaur, and plenty of hot springs shenanigans. But in tandem, the magical world was given so much more background and depth, not to mention the latter half of the story took place there. I was absolutely taken aback while reading it because I was not expecting more lore and adventures after the surface level stuff in Mamotte. It was so fun to see Nina meet Zero and Ichi's grandmother and learn how much power their family has in the magic world. Seeing them set sail on the magical seas to the exam headquarters to try and convince the council to resume the magical exam after Zero's grandmother tries to get it cancelled so he can get married to Nina and become the next heir because Zero's deadbeat brother left on a journey of self-discovery and fairy dust. Yeah, a lot was going on at this part. My point is, it was so much more enthralling seeing Nina and Zero fight for their own autonomy and future together, and seeing all of the examinees combine their powers again to help protect the future of the magic exam and their friends. Ugh, this Stardust Stone scene would have looked so cool animated. It's clear to me that Michio Kikuta's writing improved as she continued working on Mamotte Lollipop. I mean, she literally admits in a few early side panels that she had no idea where the story was going. But it comes to a conclusion that, in my opinion, makes sense. That these exams, the examinee's craziness, the adventures, the connection to the magical world, and her love for Zero, all of these things are just omnipresent in Nina's life from now on. And despite how she felt at the very beginning, now she wouldn't have it any other way. And don't ask me what happens to Ichi, I don't want to talk about it. If you're looking for high-end literature, world-class character building, and the like, I'm gonna need you to turn away. The Mamotte Lollipop series is a silly, beach episode coded, inconsequential series that only gets better as it goes on. But on the same token, it has one of the roughest starts I've ever consumed in a piece of media, and its sequel series might only be so good to me because I was so starved for a better story for these characters. And yet, I can't say it didn't fulfill its purpose. It's the type of story you thought up daydreaming out of your 6th grade classroom window. I had fun reading it. I even believe Michio Kikuta had even greater dreams for this series as her first original work. In one of the sidebar notes, she mentions she came to her editor with ideas for what sounded like an authentic magical girl series with flashy clothes and a team of heroines. However, her proposal was rejected. There were already Maho shoujo series in Nakuyoshi magazine at that time. What she ended up writing is a series that is just magical girl adjacent enough that you can get away with sneaking it into the genre. Based on Kikuta's recent comic works with shows like iPre and her love for all things cute and magical on her social media, I believe she would have gone all in on the cutesy magical girl concept had she been given the chance. Instead, the initial pressure to create something different, with a majority of male characters and an oddly actiony shonen flair similar to Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Bakugan, gave us Mamotte Lollipop. I only wish the series were given the chance to be as cutesy and magical as it could have been. But no do-overs, right? Unless... No, really, I wouldn't hold your breath for a remake. Mamo Lolly's best qualities are its slew of supporting character backstories, delayed but exciting world building of a foreign land, and its adorable depiction of a freshly blossoming romance. Its drawbacks are a complex mixture of odd timing, weird writing choices, and a new mangaka finding her footing in the professional manga world with this series. And though it doesn't make the massacre of Ichi's character any less painful, we have to cope somehow, right? I was struck with a vision while making this video, and because the full moon wo sagashite scrunchies did so well and a lot of people seem to like the idea, I handmade another accessory to go along with this video. Can you guess what it is? That is right, I made lollipop bow clips inspired by Nina's iconic red ribbons that are up for purchase now at the time this video is released. I made 18 this time instead of 6, so more chances now if you missed out on the scrunchies. They're meant to be a pair, like a duo. I also really debated on whether to keep the lollipops unwrapped or to wrap them, and I decided to wrap them because I feel like it just fits the concept more. I don't know. You have to see it in person to understand. So the link for purchase is going to be down below. I will put that in the pinned comment and in the description. Let me know if you ever finished reading Mamotte Lollipop back when it just came out, when you were a kid, and how you feel about it now, today. I love retrospective thinking. But anyway, thank you guys so much for the support. 2024 was crazy. I never expected to be coasting 30,000 subscribers, so you guys have been really awesome. I appreciate it. And until next time, I'll see you in my dreams. Bye, friend.